Hello friends, welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, my name is Melissa and you've found Melissa's Cozy Corner in the corner of YouTube. So if you hear a little bit of background noise, I'm actually sitting on my balcony outside. It's beautiful out right now. It's very cool, beautiful breeze. So there's a little bit of road sound because there's the road right here and the train on that side. So you might have a little bit of noise in the background. Hopefully you can hear me just fine though. So today we're going to be talking about 10 books that I actually recommend reading during the summer. It's not because they're summery, but mostly because they're not the kind of books that I consider cozy, comfy. You cuddle under a blanket and you read during a stormy night outside, or you read next to a pumpkin spice candle or anything like that. These are just 10 books that I think fit really well during summer months because they're just fun, interesting books to read, and it doesn't have to be a cozy atmosphere that you normally get in fall or winter or even the stormy months of spring. So I'm going to be talking about 10 books. 8 of them I've read and find very interesting, and 2 of them I have not read but heard amazing things about them. So we're going to go ahead and start off with one book that I've heard so much about. I saw all over social media I still see it all over social media. It's quite new, and it's Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I haven't read Babel. I am now interested in reading Babel just because I'm curious as to how the author has changed theme and also genre. Like, these are 2 different genres. I find it very intriguing that she's been able to do that. But let's get back to Yellowface. Yellowface is about 2 authors, one who's very, very popular and being very successful, and one that has not been so successful. Early on, and it's not a spoiler, we find out the one that's been successful dies. And we find out the one that's been not so successful ends up taking her work and pretending it's her own. I'm not yet finished with this book. I actually have about 50 pages left. It's been very intriguing and definitely a page turner. I do have to admit, R.F. Kuang is a great author. She has a very fantastic skill of being able to write something that's intelligently written but easy to read. So you're not feeling like it's dumbed down or anything like that. It's actually very intriguing, and the story itself is captivating. You end up finding kind of behind the scenes of the publishing industry. I can't tell if all of it is really true on how it acts or how it's working, but if it is, wow. And if it isn't, it's still interesting. We also get a lot of insights in like social media and how authors interact on social media. I've also heard quite a bit that celebrities are creating more TikToks to create marketing for themselves. So you have authors who are promoting their books on TikToks, or singers who are writing sound bits for TikToks. But so this doesn't play with TikTok all that much, but we get to find out a lot about Twitter and the behind the scenes of being an author. Very interesting, very intriguing, a page turner, and I'm very curious as to what's going to happen in the last 50 pages of this one. I recommend this one for summer just because it's a fun book. It's yellow, but also because it's just a good everyday book. You can read it of any time of the year, but I find it very nice during the summer because I'm able to sit outside. It's not cozy. It's very, I wouldn't say anxiety-inducing, but you feel constantly stressed out for the author. So definitely a fun book to read during the summer. I've definitely been enjoying it, so I highly recommend it. Book number 2, talked about before, and that's The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. This is one of my favorite books. It's a 5-star book for me, and I highly recommend it. I don't consider it specifically summery, but it's definitely one of those books where I've been able to sit on the balcony and enjoy. I can really just get drawn into the story without thinking twice, and I don't feel like I have to sit on the sofa and cozy up. It's one of those books where I can read anywhere, pick up anywhere, and just get lost in the story. I could imagine reading this one by the beach just because it's one of those things where no matter what's happening around me, I could just be lost in this story. This book is about a man who ends up meeting a cat. They become friends, and then the man ends up having to take the time to find this cat a home. We follow the journey throughout the book itself from the cat's perspective. So it's very different, and definitely what I was questioning is this going to be kind of weird and not as fun because it's from the cat's perspective? But it was really engaging. I loved it. I have 2 cats myself, and it's just kind of funny to think about like how they think and how they interact and how what their purpose and what they think their goal is every day. Definitely a really good read. Not something you have to cozy up to, but you could if you wanted to. But one that you're just gonna dive in and just get sucked into so quickly, especially if you're a cat person. And also if you just like animals or, yeah. The next one is not a cozy book I would consider, but it's not also a lighthearted book. It's The Nightingale by Kristin. This was a page turner for me. I fell in love with this book. I read it so quickly, and it's not a thin book. It's about World War II and what was happening a lot in Paris during that time and what was happening with the families. So we end up following a couple characters through their time through World War II and how their thoughts were and how their feelings were, and just how devastating the whole war was, I guess. It was not something I consider cozying up to because it's not something I want to cozy up to. It's something I want to dive deep into and just really understand. And this was really, really well written. I fell in love with it. Every page I was just engrossed and just, I couldn't put it down. World War II book, so if you're not into World War II, or if that subject is kind of difficult for you, maybe not the best book for you, maybe not something that you would consider a page turner. It is just historical fiction, dark, depressing, and hard, but very, very well written and a very intriguing story. The next one is actually something we picked up a couple years ago, and it's because we watched the show on Netflix, and it's The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. I love this book. It's not exactly like the TV show, which I really enjoyed. We watched the TV show first, and then my partner got this for me for Christmas. I read it very quickly. It was very intriguing, very interesting. I don't know how to play chess, and I thought this was perfect. It talks about the different ideas throughout how to play chess, but it doesn't go so in depth where you feel like you're being lectured about how to play. So instead it just uses the general ideas. You can follow it. They do play chess in the book, of course, but it's not so in depth and intense and heavy. The story is also very interesting and very intriguing. If you've seen this show, I think you'll also like the book. It does follow some of the same themes, but has its own themes, of course, as well. So if you're looking for just something that's a little bit more logical, a little bit more of a drama, then I think this one would be a great one for you. Oh, I didn't really even explain what this book is about. I just figured you watched the show. So The Queen's Gambit is about a young girl who ends up being orphaned, and she ends up kind of picking up chess as a way to cope. And she's a natural. It's something that just comes naturally to her. She can see it all in her mind, but we end up following her story through the fame of this, and she ends up moving forward. And it's hard because during this time, during this age, women weren't really considered somebody who should be playing chess. They were really more considered stay-at-home wives, doing the wifely duties, doing the woman's duties, and this girl ends up taking a step out and saying, no, I want to play chess, and she ends up kicking butt, but with some downfalls throughout the story as well. But I won't get into those because I recommend you reading it. So that's Queen's Gambit for you. The next one is actually a manga. I've talked about this one a couple times on my YouTube channel just because I think it's a lovely, lovely manga, super engaging, super cute, and that's Witch Hat Atelier. I loved this. I think it's so sweet. It's so heartwarming, engaging, a quick read. So if you only have like an hour or two and you just want to get engrossed into a story, Witch Hat Atelier is a great manga, especially if you're looking to even just start reading mangas. This is a great start. This is where I started. And it's just about a young girl who ends up wanting to be a witch, and then she ends up having some stuff happen in her personal life where she ends up being introduced to the witches. you don't just become a witch. You're normally born a witch and you become an apprentice, and then now we're following her through her apprenticeship. And yeah, it's just a very, very cute, fun manga book. The next one I've also talked about a couple times on my channel. That's Howl's Moving Castle by Diane Wayne Jones. This is just a fun book. I loved reading it. I don't consider it a cozy book because this is something where you're just reading and it's fun to read and it's heartwarming but also mysterious, and you're just moving through this world of amazing descriptive things. Like, the way the world is described is so magical that you're just getting pulled into the story without having to think twice. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it's a perfect summer read, is because you can just read it and finish it in one day. It's also a very quick read and something that I think anybody could really enjoy. You don't have to watch the film. The film does create more. I think I watched the film before I read the book. And so the imagery I was creating in my head mostly fit towards what the film had created, but that doesn't matter. It's still a very interesting and intriguing story. You follow a young girl who ends up getting cursed, and she ends up being cursed into an old woman. And we follow her story of her trying to figure out who she is and figuring out what her purpose is and what her life is, and how she doesn't want to be a hat maker her whole life. And it's just very heartwarming. So if you're looking for something heartwarming, sweet, and kind, Howl's Moving Castle is definitely a winner for me. Now we're going to talk about a collection of short stories. I read these a while ago, but I still really enjoyed them, and that's I Was Told They Would Be Cake by Sloane Crosley. I actually picked this book up just because of the title. I thought this book would be funny and engaging because it was going to be about cake, and it ended up being a collection of short stories. But the short stories are very great. If you only have about 30 minutes to read something, I would highly recommend picking up a collection of short stories, and this one's definitely one worth reading. I didn't love all of them. Of course, you can't love all short stories. You can like a lot of them, but you can't love all of them. But I thought it was definitely fantastic and enjoyable and a delight to read, and definitely worth reading. As like I said, if you only have like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you can read a story, put it down, and move on with your day. So for example, you want to go to the park and enjoy the sun in the park, or go to the lake, or go to the beach. Grab yourself this book, read yourself a short story down there, and then it'd be absolutely perfect. So definitely highly recommend. I'm trying to decide if I talk about a book that leads into fall, or if I talk about the two books I have not read yet. Let's talk about the two books I haven't read yet, because the fall one is perfect to lead into fall. So one of them is Broken by Jenny Lawson. I've heard so many amazing things about this book. I haven't read it yet, and I have to choose the right time to read it. And I think during summer is the right time because we get a lot of serotonin and dopamine from the sun and a lot of vitamin D, and I think I'm in a positive mood, so a great time to read this book. Broken is about a woman who's talking about her mental health and the demons we carry inside of us. And I think it's supposed to be kind of a more of a dark humor aspect in it, but it is related to true stories. It's the way that this author's dealing with a lot of these feelings and thoughts and just how heavy everything is. And I'm really looking forward to reading it, and I think this might be one of my next books to read because, like I said, it's sunny outside, perfect time to read something about mental health when you're not sitting inside when it's dark outside. Sitting inside when it's dark outside. So I think this one's going to be the next ones I pick up, but definitely a very intriguing book, one I'm looking forward to reading. If you've read this one, I would be interested to hear what your thoughts are. The next one I'm going to end up talking about is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. I'm really excited to read this. This sounds super cute and adorable, and I ended up talking about it in my last video, but it's about a witch who isn't interested in making potions and spells, but is interested in gardening and baking, and I think that just sounds fantastical. So I haven't read this. I'm excited to read it. If you had read it, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say, but definitely definitely on my next up list. So these are the 2 books I'm going to be reading next. I'm excited for them, and I think you should read them too, and then we can read them together. The last book I'm going to talk about is a book that's technically more fall-based, but I think is perfect to lead up to fall, so reading at the end of summer. And that's the Virago Book of Witches. This is just it's a collection of stories of different witch stories, of where witches came from, what their origin stories are. I read one about where it takes place in Ireland, and they're only a couple pages long. So each story is between 3 to 10 pages long, I believe. Very intriguing, very interesting. I'm only about a quarter of the way through because they're short stories, so I don't feel like I have to read the whole book at one time. But I've been enjoying this, getting ready for the fall season, and I think I've decided I'm going to have more of a witchy fall, so I'm going to just more witchy, whatever that means, but have more of just like a enchanted feeling. So this is a great book if you're really into fall, really into witches, wanting to kind of understand the origins of witches and wanting to understand different kind of perspectives of where witches came from. So these are stories from all over the world. Some of them are more interesting than others, of course, but definitely a book that's worth picking up for fall and if you're in a witchy mood like myself. So that's 10 books, not in 10 minutes. Thankfully I didn't make that promise. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed all these books. Like I said, it is a collection of just interesting books that I don't feel you need a cozy atmosphere to enjoy. Just a great collection of different types of books to read in different atmospheres or settings. So perfect at the beach, perfect for a 30-minute bus ride or 30 minutes at the park, or getting lost in while sitting at the pool, or even sitting on your balcony. I am curious if you've read any of these books, and if you have, which ones have you enjoyed, which ones have you not enjoyed? Also, if you have other summer reads that you would recommend, I would definitely love to hear them. I'm always looking for new books to read that are interesting and intriguing and definitely a delight. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I really appreciate you guys joining me, and I can't wait to see you guys until next week. Ciao! Hey, psst, nee.